Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. is sending 1,000 additional troops to the Middle East because the tensions are now through the roof and it's not getting any better. So, this was confirmed in the news yesterday that this decision was made after there were two tankers that were attacked out in the Gulf of Oman. And of course, the US is blaming Iran for the whole thing. They're saying that there is footage that shows the Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps removing an unexploded mine from one of the ship's hulls. Um, Sometimes I'm always leery about this. And the reason why I am is because I will never forget the weapons of mass destruction, and the media pushed that propaganda along with the president. And turns out they didn't find any weapons of mass destruction over there in Iraq, but they pushed that propaganda real hard in order to jump off a war that they can't win. I mean, look at how long the US has been in Afghanistan and Iraq. Can't even leave. Can the US afford to be in another war? No, I don't think so. But they're going to do this anyway. It doesn't matter. We know the wars are coming. We already know that. The US has already accelerated the deployment to the Middle East of the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group and sent B-52 bombers after what it said were credible threats by Iran against US forces and interests in the region. Since then, the US has sent an additional 1,500 troops and increased defensive capabilities to continue to help deter Iran. And ladies and gentlemen, you know the US is known for their preemptive strikes. That's what they love doing. And we see how that's turned out. All right, so the recent Iranian attacks validate the reliable, credible intelligence we have received on hostile behavior by Iranian forces and their proxy groups that threaten the United States personnel and interests across the region, Shanahan said. Now, if you remember, probably about 2 to 3 weeks ago, they were moving non-essential personnel out of there, and those folks had to come back home. Ladies and gentlemen, I knew the US would eventually go back to war, but this, I have to say, it's undeniable. It is definitely escalating more and more each week. Iran attempted to shoot down a US drone that were surveilling the attack on the two tankers, hit the Gulf of Oman last week, CENTCOM said. The attempt missed an MQ-9 Reaper by approximately 1 kilometer. The US has also blamed Iran for an attack on 4 commercial vessels off the coast of the United Arab Emirates in May. So I have some audio I want you to listen to that came out yesterday. Fox News.
Just moments ago, the Pentagon authorized an additional 1,000 American troops to the Middle East in response to growing concerns over Iran, where tensions have been quickly mounting. Just today, Iran moved to increase uranium enrichment levels and break the stockpile limits set by the 2015 Obama nuclear deal within the next 10 days. The threat comes on the heels of last week's oil tanker attacks in the Gulf of Oman, which the U.S. says Iran is clearly behind. Here now live, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, a member of the Armed Services Committee, of course, and also author of the new book, Sacred Duty, A Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery. Senator, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Ed.
How serious is this tonight, the president and the Pentagon authorizing 1,000 more U.S. troops to the Mideast?
And this kind of deployment is a prudent measure to build up our force protection posture at some of our permanent bases in the region, like in Qatar and Bahrain, where we have thousands of sailors and airmen based, as well as some of the contingency forces we have in places like Iraq. It also helped with surveillance in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman against the kind of attacks, unprovoked attacks on commercial shipping on the high seas that Iran conducted last week against those two tankers, or that they conducted in a port last month against 4 different tankers.
Yeah. Before this announcement, the New York Times said this in an editorial: the incident is the latest evidence that the United States and Iran are on a collision course at a moment in which hardliners on both sides have little interest in any diplomatic off-ramp. I wonder what you think tonight are the chances that in the next 12 months we'll be talking about a hot war in the Middle East.
And if the United States and Iran are on a collision course, it's only because Iran continues its 40-year low-level war against the United States to the point of provoking retaliatory military strikes. Let's remember, the Ayatollahs seized power in 1979 and immediately invaded sovereign American soil, our embassy in Tehran, and held our fellow citizens hostage for 400 days. Also, in 1987, 1998, Iran did exactly the kind of thing they're doing now, attacking commercial vessels in the Persian Gulf and in the Strait of Hormuz, to the point that Ronald Reagan had to conduct retaliatory military strikes against the Iranian Navy and their oil facilities. What Iran did last week warrants such retaliatory military strikes. It's up to Iran whether they want to behave like a civilized, normal nation, whether they want to continue to conduct these kind of terrorist attacks.
Senator, you laid out some stubborn facts right there. Nancy Pelosi, as you probably doesn't surprise you, disagrees with about all of it. Listen to what she said and want you to react.
He comes in and undoes that, and inflames the U.S.-Iran issue. Why? What is the purpose? I'm not going to accuse anybody of instigating anything, but for not having a policy that would smooth the waters, so to speak. I think he probably knows there's no appetite for war among the American people.
I imagine you know that when she says he, she's talking about the President of the United States, and she's saying that basically he inflamed the situation by tearing apart the Obama nuclear deal.
And I have to say, I'm surprised and a little disappointed that Nancy Pelosi sounds like she's siding with the Ayatollahs just a few days after they attacked commercial vessels in the open seas of the Gulf of Oman. Look, Iran has been engaged in these kind of activities for years. Even after the terrible nuclear deal that President Obama signed in 2015, they were still supplying their rebel proxies in Yemen with missiles that could be used to attack shipping lanes in the Red Sea and even attack U.S. vessels. They continue to support terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They continue to support attacks on Americans in Iraq and Afghanistan. The very same kind of attacks that killed more than 500 Americans in Iraq. Iran is solely responsible for the level of tension in the Middle East. If they want to ratchet down that tension, they can begin to behave like a normal nation. If they don't, then they are going to face the full might of the American military sooner or later.
All right. The stakes are high tonight. Senator Tom Cotton, we appreciate you coming in.
Ladies and gentlemen, I definitely believe something is coming, and a lot sooner than we think. Anytime the Pentagon has made a decision to send 1,000 more troops, and they're talking about how much this situation is escalating now, I really believe something is about to happen. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comments and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.